Hello and welcome to the Leader Talk series under the nasscom Cloud Advocacy Program. My guest for today is Manjunath Prasad, who is the head of IT at TVS Mobility Private Limited, a family-owned company providing automobile solutions, serving independent service centers, dealerships, fleets, and aftermarket. Welcome, Manjunath.
Thank you, Diksha. Nice being here on the event.
Quick introduction. Manjunath has been handling the IT operations at TVS Mobility for over a decade. He has a total experience of over 27 years in the field of IT, where he has handled data centers, cloud, network, security, and end user services across verticals as diverse as banking, pharmaceutical, and automotive. In fact, TCS Mobility also won the nasscom Enterprise Cloud Adoption Awards 2022 under the Excellence in Leveraging Cloud for Operations category. What was unique about this solution is that it does proactive diagnostic monitoring of post-warranty vehicles. To read more about the study, do go through the case studies compendium. I will leave the link in the description box. My discussion with Manjunath today is going to be a little different from what we've done so far. We are going to deep dive into TVS Mobility's cloud migration journey, and Manjunath will be sharing with us some hands-on experience in managing this entire shift. At the end of this, we hope to leave you with a set of learnings, a series of do's and don'ts, something that you usually won't find in any cloud migration playbook or any report. And you can use this checklist when you're planning your organization's cloud migration. Let's start with just an overview of what the technology setup looked like for TVS pre-cloud and what it is currently. So what was it in the data center times and what it is today?
I think thank you, Diksha. That was a wonderful illustration of my profile and the setup what we are into. Thank you for that. To start with, to answer your point, what we were earlier and what we are today, we had a traditional data center setup in our Madurai data center. There we wanted to do a refresh and all. We moved from the traditional data center to a colo business as a first phase, maybe around 7-8 years back. So we moved to a colo data center where we can get better services and operational performance from the new services. From there, we worked in that atmosphere of a colo data center operations. We worked for nearly 5 years, 5+ years, and then when the opportunity came for the asset refresh, then it was in around 2018, 2019 time frames. We decided, okay, now when we have to do the asset refresh, why don't we look at the new technologies what we had today? That was the time we started, where we started evaluating what are the available opportunities in the market, be it a traditional data center business or a colo business or a private data center or a public cloud adoption. So these were the kind of evaluations done, and then we moved ahead from the colo data center to the cloud journey. That's how we have started. We have started our journey from somewhere around 2018, 2019. From 2019 onwards, today I do not have any in-house data center. We are completely on GCP public cloud, and we are both from a production, development, DR, everything is on cloud.
So this was even before the pandemic, the shift happened, right?
That was a blessing. That was a blessing in disguise to us.
Okay.
Before the pandemic, we had moved into cloud, so that was a huge benefit to us in terms of during the pandemic we had the option to shut down everything, running only the basic minimum requirements to run for the during the shutdown period, lockdown period. So that was a big cost saving for us. In fact, if we had our traditional data center, there was no cost saving that was going to be achieved because I had to pay the AC bill, pay the meters, everything I have to do the same. I cannot run off on that. Whereas the pandemic was a blessing for us to do some savings being on cloud.
And normally when this kind of a transformational shift any company plans, right, they map it to certain with your business goals, short term, medium term, long term, and to see what role cloud will play in helping achieve those goals, right? Then you balance that with how much it is going to cost you during the migration, and also how much it's going to cost you when you stay on cloud, to stay on cloud. And you map, and then you compare it, say the ROI expected, right? And the third thing that most people consider is talent, internal talent. What do I have? How do I manage talent? What are the training that may require, etc. So, what are the aspects that you considered when you decided to shift to cloud?
Well, the points what we looked at when evaluating the cloud was what would be the best fit for our strategy, what is the business plans we have on the expansion plans. We were focusing on that. We conducted the business walkthroughs and business studies and deciding with each business unit heads of what would be their expansion plans. So because that was one of the key contributing factor, if every business wants to grow in a rapid way, then I had to size my infrastructure accordingly. So the first exercise started with understanding from business units, business heads of what is the expansion growth plan. That is one, and then after understanding that, we started evaluating that whether going with the capex mode and buying our own infrastructure and running the show ourselves would be better, or will it be better to depend on the experts like the cloud guys or the private data centers guys for them to do the job because they are the experts in that area. Should I rely on them and take it forward? So these were the two thinkings that we had to go through, and then started the cost evaluation perspective. Once we have made a decision on that, we got some clarity on that. Then we got down as a third step in the cost evaluation. When the cost evaluation came in factor, the capex versus the opex requirements came in, where we had to dwell a lot and have some couple of round of discussions with our finance teams to understand what would be the best fit for the organization and all. Based on that, ultimately it was concluded that rather than going for the capex build, so let's look at the opex mode of services, and that's where let's start looking more seriously on the cloud journey. That's how the stage moved. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. But also one question is on how did you decide what would be the best platform for you? Anyway, there are three large hyperscalers and there are multiple other platforms as well. Any guidelines on what did you do? What were the best practices you adopted in evaluating the platform?
Well, on evaluating the platform, one being the big hyperscalers being the size they are, they when we started discussions with them, they brought their best minds to the table to showcase what is that we have today and what is the growth journey we can do. We cannot just do the sizing for what we have today. We have to look at what we are going to do in the next 3 years also. That also has to be planned. So that we started having open discussions with all these three big hyperscalers of this is what we have today and this is where we intend to move. Looking at this model, what would be the best solution you would suggest? So then they also, the OEMs also brought this best experts to say that okay, from this legacy application, these are the applications we can move easily to the cloud, and these are the applications which need some modifications to adapt to work, to make it work in the cloud, and there were a few applications which cannot be moved onto the cloud because of its architecture level. So this kind of evaluate the base platform was set across all the three players, and then we understood that okay, these are the set of applications which doesn't require any architecture modification. That set was planned for the first stage moment, and then we started with the slightly modifiable applications, and the third thing was which cannot be done, which leads a larger time frame to do the modification. So like this we started evaluating that, and then when we talked to the OEMs, they came up with the plans and suggestions of how easy and how difficult it is to modify the changes. With that is where we started our plans.
I was on mute. How easy was it to get the buy-in of one, the management side, because they sign on the check, and also of the employees for whom there's such a big not just the shift in jobs, but a mindset change also is required. And so that was one question. And second is to manage this entire migration, what was the team setup like from internal, which is your tech team, and also let's say from your ecosystem partners?
Well, let me take the first question of the cost part. So it was not an easy way to convince the finance team for the cost part, because when we do how we made our success story was that we went in apple to apple. If I have to build an infrastructure of equivalent to the cloud, so what would be the capex investment that I need to do, considering the growth plan of the next 2 to 3 years. If I have to, because when you do a capex investment, we cannot just do it for 2 or 3 years. We have to plan for a returns of 5 years. So when you do the sizable infrastructure investment for on a capex mode, considering on a equivalent to hyperscaler, we worked out the workings. It came up some X figure. Then when considering to cloud or the private data centers, so what would be the working of the similar architecture? So when we did that thing, though there was some premium we could find in the cloud, we correlated that with the business expansion, the quickness, the quick thing to roll out, because you cannot just size the cloud only on the cost perspective. When we add the other intangible things like the faster to market, the flexibility to shut down, ramp up, ramp down based on the business needs, so there we got an edge. Because if you are doing in-house infrastructure, whether you want to ramp up or ramp down, I cannot just do it on the fly, whereas in the cloud I have that flexibility to do that. So considering those advantages, the cost wise was given definitely the importance, but it was, when compared to the other intangible benefits also, there I think the cloud took the front race, and that's why we selected on that. That is one. Now coming to a question of the skill set part, right? The skill set being cloud, the younger generation is definitely enthusiastic to learn more things, learn new things and all. They are already equipped with the certifications, upcoming skills and all. However, once we have freed the cloud, we went on for a reskilling program for few of our people, so that they can learn the technologies, they can know the technologies. In addition to that, while working with the cloud, we went in with a partnership program with them where they helped us with the entire transition migration from here, and also they did a handholding support for a couple of months. We tied up with them in such a way that they organize a special training sessions for my internal teams, so that they are able to manage the day-to-day operations. In addition to that, we went as a fall black plan, we went into the managed service program with the partners, so that they can run the show for us. So these are the thinking, so that my production operation should not be impacted. That was a bottom line agenda. So that's how we have done it. That's on the skill set side. Now third was, what was your question on third year? Third one?
How did you manage the talent and how did you get the buy-in of the
Yeah, so the reskilling and the skill certification was one of the things for my internal resources, while the handholding support from the managed partner as well as from the OEM was another way to move the operations.
Now, coming to the core of this discussion, which is how did you manage that entire migration journey? You've already touched upon some of the points, but I do want you to go into a little more detail about it. Is again going back to the point that you talked about, is evaluating your cloud readiness index. You touched upon how you identified applications that were legacy, applications that were moderate, and applications that need to be repackaged, right? And based on that, so can you sort of give us a little more in-depth insights into exactly what kind of applications, what kind of matrices, what was the app architecture, what were the interdependencies, and based on this, so what were the matrices that you used to map the readiness of both the hardware part of it and in the software, the various applications and the work?
Frankly speaking, there's no ready-made checklist or ready-made template to follow. It all goes by the experience and the journey when you pass through it. We started our journey by collecting all the data of what we have today. what is my current infrastructure and what is my current set of applications running. So we started with that base inventory list of applications and infrastructure, and based on that we started segregating, okay, which is the easily movable applications or which is on the latest operating system. There are few applications on 2018, 2016 OS, 2008, 2010
Right.
OS and all. So the more older the OS operating system, we keep it aside because we know for sure there will be some challenges coming up and all. The more the applications are on the latest versions of the application or operating system, we know for sure it's slightly doable job. So that's where our first set of segregation started, and based on that segregation we sat with the respective application team heads, telling the team leads, telling that okay, this is what we intend to do. Can you please look at your respective application of what will be the minor changes or no changes or major changes that's going to come up. So we start with the applications team. We understood their what is the requirement, so we gave them the architecture of how cloud works, so that and get an understanding from them how will their application suit into this. So this kind of deep level thinking was done with the respective application teams, and then a roadmap was created of a segregation was done that okay, these are these are the first phase of easily doable, these are the medium level where we might expect to do it, and these are the ones which are not able to do it. With this understanding, we stand with the OEMs, the hyperscalers, to say that okay, guys, this is my environment, this is my application set. You tell me how can it be done. So that's where we start with them. We discuss, we brainstorm, we have spent some sleepless nights to do some changes, to understand, modify, and all. Then, based on the understandings obtained, we again went back to the application team, sat with them to get that done and all. So then the application set was ready to take it forward. Having done this, we don't want to. By this time, all these times are running. The production is not being touched at all. These are all the background discussions happening, right? Once the readiness was there, we could see a sizable application. We started first with the basic set of application. Around we took around 4 to 5 applications, rolled out in the cloud, started seeing the performance, how is it working fine, is there any difficulty when compared to our present way of working versus the new way of working, the setting up the connectivities and all those things nearly took nearly 2 months of time to do the first set of rollout of the VM infrastructure on the cloud, and then take the test applications, do the complete testing, see the outcome of it, and based on that outcome we had a series of actions for the rest of the applications also. We understood that okay, these are the challenges we might face, these are the issues that will incur, the VPN, be it the VPN issue, be it the port issue, be it the SQL configuration issue, like this the various issues which you could see in the testing application. We started inculcating those into the next set of applications so that my downtime is minimized. So this way we took our first set of application, did the testing, saw the timeline it takes, how much it takes, how does it work and all. Once that was achieved, then we went into the, we put out the list of applications and segregated, okay, this is the phase 1 application, this is the phase 2 application, this is the phase 3 application. That's how we started our journey.
So one question there, you said you started off with around 4 5 apps as a test bed, right? To understand all the aspects of it. What kind of applications were they? So normally in your any organization setup, there are front-facing application, back-facing applications. Front-facing will be directly interacting with your customer, right? And there are back-end application. There are applications where which are HR, F&A related, finance related. Some there are applications which are your core business, right? So your testing, how did you approach? Was it starting with non-core applications and then moving to core, or what was it?
That's typically everybody follows. That's what we have to. We have to test the non-core. The first guinea pig would be the infrastructure applications, basically the Active Directory servers, antivirus server, the file servers. These are the basic things from the infra perspective, which will get into the test mode. Then from the applications perspective, we take the non-core applications and all the test applications, whatever we have in the test environment. We try to replicate the test environment there so that it's not an impact to the business organization. So in that test, we had taken both the Microsoft-based applications, the open source based applications, two to each, whichever we feel is critical, which has a complete test environment here. So we took those and started testing this, so that we are not left out with any major critical application. Once we are done with this non-core applications, then we replicated the environment of core application. My core is Microsoft ERP. So we were looking at how can we replicate that. It's a sizable environment for us. That's a sizable structure for us. So we started planning. That was after the test bed completion. We took one of the ERP instance to see how we can replicate that here. That was one of the tough journey what we had to go through. We replicated that and tried to do some testing, and then only we did not touch the production by that time. So tried it, tested it. We had a lot of hiccups into that, the challenges into that, tried to rectify that, and then we were in a stage that okay, now is the time we are ready to accept it.
Touch upon that challenges part, because it is something that many companies who are either in the middle of that migration journey or planning to do, they need to be aware of it, right? So just a little deep dive into what are the risks and challenges that you face at, let's say, the infrastructure level, network connectivity level, the application level, and also the data level, right? So the challenges, that was one, and the second related point was security across all these layers, right? How did you manage this? Can you just give us an idea?
I'll take the second question first for the comfort and easy point. Security was by design. Since we are getting onto the cloud, the basic question was started with security itself. So at every point of time, they say security was the basic core routine. Whereas when you do it in an in-house data center, we don't break our heads so much about security. We feel that when it is in my zone, it's safe. That's the thinking what we have. But the moment when we say we are going to put our data outside, the first thing question comes about the security itself. So keeping that security as a core, we ensure that is my structure safe there, is all necessary protocols, necessary security controls are set in order. Only once that is set, only we started putting our applications itself. We started taking the stage environment itself into inside. So the security part was well built from the architecture level itself. So we did not have nothing much to worry. Now coming to the second phase, how did the risk what we had and challenges what we had? Though we had planned everything meticulously, though the partner, the service partner, the transition partner, the OEM from the hyperscaler, plus we are all geared up, we can expect some of the other challenges coming up, the risk coming up. Only thing is where we as leaders can see is how well we can handle it. If the project is so smooth, we cannot expect that we can't criticize the project at all. If there's no risks and if there's no challenges, right? So, though in the infrastructure also, though we had planned with my existing capacity of if I am using 100 MB RAM here or 1 TB half hard disk, the moment I move into cloud, we thought that maybe it might have to size the same thing or we had to do extra. But we observed a few of the applications. I did not need such a high bandwidth and power at all. I could easily downsize it. I could see that utilization is so down that I can easily downsize it. Whereas my ERP, which is a very critical app, I could see that if the moment I put it onto the cloud, I could see a drastic performance hit. So at that point of time, I had to increase my configuration to suit the performance challenges so that my operations are not impacted. So based on the need, we had to we had to be flexible in our. So that's why I said I don't have a fixed checklist or template to follow, right? Based on the experience we go through, application to application, the template used to vary, the configuration used to vary. So that's why what we had done is we had the planning. What we had done is we take a set of applications. Once they are tested, we are ready with the D date of migration. Migrate it, see for 2 3 days, observe the challenges, what all noises will be there, how the impact is there, and all. Observe for 3 to 4 days. Once it is stable, whatever issues are there, try to fix it then and there so that the operations continue as normal. Once we see the stability after 3 to 4 days, or then only we used to take the next set of applications. We did not line up every set of application and just get into issues. So that was strategic we had taken. Take a set, stabilize it, deploy it completely, observe the pattern it is working, and then go to the next stage of application movement. That way, we also got some time for the other application teams to start gearing up and all. So that's how we follow.
And just to stay on this one question I had, you know, is how did you ensure that the external customers, right? Because you deal with leadership, service centers, so your touch points are your, dealers, and also probably your direct retail customers, if that is possible. So how did you manage to make sure that they were not affected when the shift was happening? Any customer facing apps did not get disrupted.
Okay, what we had done in that point of is we kept all our customers or all our not customers, the stakeholders, all the stakeholders informed that we are into this journey. We are taking this cloud journey, and we are trying to do something. This is better for our organization growth and performance. So we inform the respective stakeholders, and we inform the dealers also, the OEMs also, telling that we are into this path of journey and we need your support. So we had aligned their support as well on the D-Day of migration, so that in case of there's any challenges and all, we are ready to help each other. That was one. And from the business stakeholders point of view, it was sufficiently communicated well in advance. We had taken the planned downtime for the migration part, so that in case if there's any extension also, we had kept the stakeholders informed, so that they are able to inform their customers well in front. That was the second thing. The third thing what we did is, though this the planning was done and the information was done, we selected the dull season of the month. Typically November December is the dull season of the year for us in terms of sales and in terms of service and all. So the December is where the MNCs, most of the multinationals, won't even do any change. They have all the freeze changes, right? So we selected that period as our period, because we have the dull season of sales and service at that point of time. So we selected December as the period where there was low volumes, low things and all. So we planned our D-Day cutoffs from December 15th to December 25th, or during that middle month of the year, so that my month ends are also protected. We planned it in such a way that I don't take the month end nor I take the month first week. So because the pressure would be there on both the sides, month end from the sales pressure and month starting with from the finance pressure for closing the month. Right? So we took the mid month of the December, so that was slightly a dull period. So that's where it gave us some lifeline to sail through.
And what was the timelines for this entire cloud migration from the starting to shifting to 100% cloud? That was one. And what are some of the critical milestones and matrices that you tracked at each stage and you continue to now track today when you are fully operating out of a cloud?
Well, the timeline when we started, it easily took nearly 6 to 8 months for us to complete the project. Though the evaluation put another, if I take the evaluation part, that took us nearly 3 to 6 months for evaluating whether the sorry, whether the in-house data center option would be better, whether the private data center is better. So that evaluation took us nearly 3 to 4 months. We spent enough time onto that. And once we had decided that, okay, this is the option we go, this is what we will follow. The cloud is public cloud is what we are going to follow. From that stage of freezing the partner or freezing the OEM, from there till the final execution, it took nearly 6 months, right from starting from
Okay.
the planning stage, involving the application team leaders to involve or to strengthen their application, to plan their application migrations and all. If you take all those times totally, we took nearly 6 months as well. Since I said December was my D-Day, so we started working right from August, September onwards, started rolling out all the test applications, testing it out and all, so that from December was the cutoff date for me to have all my applications to be in the queue. So from December and Jan was purely my rollout plans, implementation, migrations from in-house data center to the cloud. And Jan onwards, it was totally the stabilization period. Till Feb, we were into the stabilization period, so that to see that all things, whatever left out patches are there, it's completed, no trouble, no noise is there. That business management was very clear that see to it that everything is done and dusted in Jan itself, so that March year end should not be an issue. So with that plan, we took easily around 6 months is the time frame from the start of the project to implementation and stabilization phase, to answer your question. Does that answer your question?
In total, yeah, absolutely. So in total, you are saying it can take anywhere between an year and a half, depending on the size of the organization, to start from just the planning phase, which is your paperwork, to complete shift to cloud testing and roll. Would that
Yes,
be a
it
fair
depends.
assessment? Yeah.
It depends on organization to organization.
Yeah.
For us, we took around 3 months for the paperwork, for the evaluation part, paperwork studies and all, and 6 months for our implementation phase, end to end, from planning to the stability phase. So we took around 6 months. Yeah, that's a fair answer.
Yeah, great. Coming to the final section, is basically to cover, if, like I said, if someone wants to do their cloud migration journey or they're in the middle of it, what are the do's and don'ts that you would suggest, right? So, first question there is, what are some of the systems or standard operating procedures that you had in place? Sure that things went out as smoothly as possible.
Well, to start, when I said the first point, right, when we started building our base inventory of what we have and what we don't have, the base inventory of infrastructure and applications. When we do this, we took out all the, it was a good chance to dust our SOPs, procedures, and all to see are we in alignment what we do and what we have. So we had to go through a lot of that, and we had to do a lot of changes to that as well, because definitely the SOPs would not get updated so frequently. This is a practical challenge every team faces it. So as part of this exercise, even that was uh, cleaned up and say, okay, this is what we do. With that documentation, we started off our journey, and then slowly, as we went to stage by stage, when we did the testing, we could see that these are the changes that we need to make to our working procedures. So we inculcated that and then started taking up as per that. Now, what was the first question you asked? You asked me something about
Standard operating procedures and systems. Basically, what systems did you put in place to
yeah.
make sure
So
that it was? Good, good,
so
sir.
Yeah, so once the standard, the procedure documents, whatever we had, the SOPs were modified as we moved into cloud structure, so that the next coming applications becomes easier. That is one. And second thing is when we did our test bed itself, the whatever the observations we had seen when compared to our in-house concept also, the major challenge what you see is in the network side, because when you have everything within your domain, you will slightly be relaxed in the network connectivity and security and all. But the moment we go into the cloud, it's more sophisticated, more security oriented. So each and everything here in the in-house we do it. Okay, you give his my known source, give it to him, give access to him. But whereas when you go to the cloud, that will not be that way. Though he's a user, known user, I have to select what kind of connection he needs, what kind of port has to be open for his application. So like that, we went into the nitty-gritty details of each and every application, took it stage by stage, went it, tested it for a day, and once it is stabilized and we feel working fine, that's where the D-Day would be planned for the cutoff from the in-house place to the cloud place. So like that, that was planned, and then there was a series of collaboration effort between the application teams and the infrastructure teams to make the solution work, and also a timely communication happening to all the stakeholders, telling that okay, this is where we are, please, this is not the date, please plan your business activities accordingly. Like that, the series of communications was being sent out to the stakeholders, so that they were kept well aware of what's happening and what to expect. So these were the things which we followed.
And last question, you talked about surprises, last minute problems, and all of that. So, for any company, if you were to uh, suggest or recommend some do's and don'ts, right, when they are probably undergoing the cloud migration, maybe what are the top 2 or 3 do's and what are the top 3 don'ts that you would recommend to them?
Yeah, my suggestion that do's would be that do effective planning. The more you do the planning, the smoother is the cakewalk. Please get into each and every nitty-gritty detail. Though it looks silly, it's better to get it documented somewhere and follow it so that we don't forget it. Because that one silly spot would become a major showstopper when you migrate it over there. So though it is silly, just make a good inventory of whatever you have to do a good planning, detailed planning of what to do, what not to do, when to do, how to do. So come put out that effective planning onto that. Third, then do the testing of it. It doesn't mind to replicate the environments, even though it's a because on cloud everything is money. Everything is money. Though you even spend one day of it, you have to pay for it. So it's worthwhile spending that amount and effort to test the application rather than getting into a huge surprise of directly pumping the application and seeing that we are having issues. So these would be the three things which I would suggest as the top three things to do it. And fourth, to not but larger, keep the people informed, keep the stakeholders informed, keep your team as part of the collaboration very well within your teams, so that each because each has a role to play. Each team member has is good in his own domain. He has a role to play. So have a good collaboration within the team. So because it's a joint effort to make this happen. So these are the four things that we need to do. Now the don'ts part, yes, be ready for surprises. Don't just say I had done it very well and it should work. Be ready for surprises, and you should have a plan either to roll back if it is a business critical impact. Be ready that you can roll it back if it is not, or B, if you have aligned support properly, then see how you can fix that issue quickly so that the business operation comes back to normal. So that is one. Be ready for surprises. And the second thing is just cost is not the only thing. When you want to derive the business value out of cloud adoption, you have to keep in mind about the growth consideration of the business. So it's not only the cost perspective, the faster to market. Now with all applications going digital in each and every vertical, with all applications going digital, there's a lot more push on IT to adopt the latest technologies and latest clouds. That is two. And last don't is that though all the clouds have their own services, many tools on it, please just don't adopt it because they say try and test it what is applicable to you, how is it applicable to you, because there are so many tools on the cloud today. Everything has their own fancy jargons of utilizing it, but is it really applicable to me? Is it any beneficial to me? Evaluate that and then start adopting it or deploying those services. That would be the things. Just don't take the services as it is available.
So, it was a great conversation, Manjunath. Thank you so much. I'm going to attempt to summarize it so that people have the checklist. You said there's no ready checklist, so I'll try and at least start that, but I'm going to read it out. I've written down some points. So, basically, as step one, when you're planning, you align it to your business goals of the entire organization because business goals are long term, not medium or short term. Right? That will help you to uh, gauge how much infrastructure you will need. So you're basically trying to be future ready. Then map your existing technology ecosystem in terms of hardware, network connectivity, software. Uh, and so map it to their readiness to shift to cloud, whether it is easy, medium, difficult, right? Get that documentation in place. Second, of course, the third point, of course, is to do cost benefit analysis, like why you're moving to cloud and what is the long term. And of course, the workforce to make sure that they're able to manage it post the migration. That is one set of checklist. The second set you said was, like you said, operating systems to make sure that it's which are easier to migrate and which are more difficult to migrate. And that will also give you an opportunity to phase out the ones that don't no longer work in, right? So that way you're cleaning up your whole system, right? And based on that, you identify what modernization needs required and work very, very closely with the development teams, both internal and the partners, right? And segregate it accordingly and then do the migration iterations, multiple iterations. And you, one important thing is, you said was to experiment by probably shifting one set of maybe non-core applications to the cloud, understanding what goes into the actual migration, what are the challenges, what are the problems, and how it runs on the cloud, and there what are the challenges. Document that, and based on that, start shifting the rest of the core application. So that experimentation is what is very crucial. And of course, security, as you said, is by design. So it's the first thing that you look at, and it will be first thing. And through the journey and the last thing, keep in mind security. Communication constantly with your stakeholders, right? Operations, all of that. So one thing you said was timing is important. Timing the migration so that you don't disrupt your
that's very
stakeholders.
critical. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So that you need to keep in mind. And so at the end of it, you have, again, like we said, depending on the size of the organization, anywhere between 1.5 to 2 year journey. Around one, that be right?
Yeah.
And of course, there is a stabilization period, which I think is equally important, so that you make sure that everything is working well in the cloud. So account for that. That suppose is at least at the beginning of a checklist, if I can call it that.
Yeah, you can. You, now I can say that it has become a checklist. But when I started, it was not there.
Thank you, Manjunath. Fantastic discussion. Excited to see where TVS, as far as the technology journey is concerned. To our audience, I hope you found this discussion useful. Uh, like I said, I'm leaving the link to the cloud compendium in the description box below. Don't forget to download that. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Diksha, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I hope this experience of ours might be helpful for few of the people who are going to start their journey now or already in mid of their journeys. So maybe we can also listen to more of such experiences in our future events. Thank you, Diksha. Thank you, everybody.